question time. Can I have the first question, please? Oh, yes.
Sri Vasudevacharya, we enjoyed your talk more than anything else. I would like to know what made you learn Sanskrit so beautifully, and your pronunciation is so excellent and superb.
That's a very nice question. Easy question. I went to an ashram, and there they were teaching Sanskrit. I got a little interested, that's all, and I started to study, and all this was in Sanskrit, so I just got interested. It came, I don't know how it came. My pronunciation, really my Sanskrit should be a lot better than what it is. My pronunciation is okay. My Patni is from North India. In North India, the Alpa Prana and Maha Prana is quite clear. This consonant, k, that. She says, sometimes you read English you don't have, so she picks me up occasionally on that. And I don't know many other languages, so nothing much interferes. Hindi is a great language, but it can interfere with the Sanskrit sometimes. Tamil is a very great language, but if you don't recognize the difference between Tamil and Sanskrit, then you will say, instead of avatara, it will become avadara. And so you see a lot of these things. So because of, in some ways, not knowing that much, I can try to have Shuddha Ucharana. Yeah, many people who know have very good Sanskrit pronunciation. Swami Omkarananda, who comes here to Singapore, his Sanskrit pronunciation is very good, his diction and such things. I have to, should learn from people like that. But for what I do, I have reasonable knowledge of Sanskrit, and my grammar knowledge is quite good, so I'm able to read and understand. Thank you for your question.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Acharyaji, in the events that are currently unfolding in Burma, how would one try to explain the concept of action as you have elucidated so beautifully?
In the concept of action as we've taken it here, it's really all about the attitude with which you do the action. Really the whole thing, all of Krishna, I'll come back to the teaching. All of Krishna's teaching is really more internal. You know, even in regard to worship, he said, if you just give me a leaf, a flower, or a fruit, but you do it in a dedicated and really you mean it, he said, I take it. You know, meaning that if you give me a whole lot of other things and you don't really mean it, or you do it just mechanically, blah, 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 and then I see what's in your heart. So all this teaching is really about our inner attitude. You know, the karma yoga is really a yoga of inner attitude. I do it in a dedicated way. In regard to what's happening in Burma, I'm not able to really say, I suppose, except if Gita is a battlefield situation, sometimes you have to stand up for what is right. But it must take a lot of courage in Burma to try to stand up when you don't have the facilities to oppose. You know, this was a battle between two armed camps. In Burma, people trying to stand up for what I believe is right, and they don't have anything to stand up with. It's very, very difficult. It takes a lot of courage and for those monks, etc., to do that. But sometimes you have to stand up for what you believe in.
I'm trying to also ask myself, what is in the attitude of action taken by the generals? I mean, they're taking an action.
I don't know. I'm getting myself into trouble. But, that's all I can say. No, they're looking after themselves. That's all. They've been doing that for a long time, and it's time the international community take a little bit of harder line against Myanmar.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Small interruption. But this is not to Swami Vasudevacharya. This question is to the audience actually. Now there is no action, there is a reaction from the temple management. Because some of our guests, have parked their cars inside the temple premises. So I humbly request those who have parked their cars, please kindly, okay, I have the car numbers also.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. Your two tangible concepts of Arpana Buddhi and Prasanta Buddhi, I think, are very, very useful. Now, my question is, as a teacher, for instance, as a doctor, as a lawyer, you said everybody has to perform their duty. Now, sometimes, in the interest of the organization, institution, or the client that you are representing, you may have to take some unethical decisions. How does one operate in these circumstances? Thank you.
Sometimes you might have to take some unethical, I don't know the specific examples, sometimes you might have to, but it shouldn't be the easy option for you. We shouldn't do it because it is easy for us to take the unethical decision. Sometimes it may be have to do. In India, people have to pay something or this or that, but then they shouldn't be on the receiving end of certain wrong actions. I think a lot of things you just have to use your conscience. Your conscience is a guide for us. If we don't have the Shastra and you don't have someone learned to ask, you have to know what is the appropriate thing to do and what is not appropriate thing to do. And we shouldn't sort of justify ourselves. We should make a stand sometimes for what is right. If it means that you have to, we can take an Indian example. If it means that you have to pay somebody something to get something done, or you have to make 12 trips to the whatever government office to get the same thing done, or 20 trips or whatever, or you can pay the guy and you can finish it off. Then, I'm thinking, you can pay the guy and finish it off. But you shouldn't be on the receiving end and asking for that in your case. But there are cases where you have to make a stand and you have to believe it, you have to do the right thing. You can't corrupt yourself inside.
Sir?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I'm simply asking. I'm simply asking to do the things rightly in the name of Krishna. What about people who are signing the false affidavits, false evidences, and false witnesses and so on? So how do they stand in the court of Krishna?
We should take a stand and do what is right. So if it was the case, my simple example before, to get something, sometimes you have to pay somebody. Okay, that I don't like, but sometimes it's possible. You shouldn't go and do really false things. We have to take a stand. So you're very right in what you say. Inside, you have to be able to sleep with yourself at night. When we leave this world, we don't take anything behind. I don't take this book, I don't take this bottle, I don't take this cloth. You take nothing. I've seen people pass away, you probably have seen people pass away. They take nothing, they're there 1 minute and they're gone the next, and there's all this. And Hindus believe you take your punya and your papam, a few little skills that you might pick up on the way. That's why you've got Tendulkar being able to bat well, something like that. Really, that's some ball sense from something he was doing in his previous life. Otherwise, you're some purva prajna, your punyam and your papam, and that's the Hindu view, and people were talking Hindu. That's all we take.
No, my meaning is he doing the karma right way when the lawyer is doing the false affidavit?
I don't know. What would you say? I don't have to make a.
Well, that calls for legal advice. Not spiritual advice. Can I have the question for you? Yes. Yes.
Now we know how to deal with the next action. We just take it as an offering. But how about the accumulated karma? How do we clear those past karma that is going to have unfavorable effects?
If you are on the spiritual path, I believe since Krishna says, if you live in this way, you will come to me. Come to me doesn't mean like overnight, but it means a gradual spiritual development. So if you do this, I believe, takes stronger effect than some of your previous karma, which may have been something negative, and maybe you were meant to be born as an iguana or some lizard for 3 births. But because of the way that we are living now, this will neutralize that karma. And I believe, because since he says you will come to me, then the path must be that we are going to spiritually develop. It's not that we're going to take going a downward spiral on our next birth. So even if you have a lot of karma pending, and you're able to do this, you become Shuddhatma, etc. You become pure in mind, you become simple and dedicated and honest in your heart. You will go on a spiritual up, and you will want to take those whatever was pending before. That is my belief. Since he says you will come to me, it should be a straight path, not a roundabout. Yes, sir.
Yes, question here. What is action in action and inaction in action?
Okay.
This is one of the verses.
Yeah. Who was saying that? This gentleman, yeah. Karman, no, I keep saying it wrong. Karman, yeah. No. This one. Karmani akarma yah pasyet. Karmani akarma yah pasyet. The person who sees non-action in action and action in non-action. This is a very cryptic verse. In Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 or 5 of these cryptic verses. Just because, Ganapati is writing Mahabharata, and Vyasa and Ganapati had that deal with Vyasa Muni that Vyasa shouldn't stop dictating. And Vyasa said to Ganapati, but you must understand everything that I have said. And so when occasionally he would put some very cryptic verse in Mahabharata, so Ganapati had to stop for a while and gave Vyasa some breathing space. This is one of those verses. Karmani akarma yah pasyet. In action, the person who sees non-action in action. In the action of the physical body, the person sees the non-action of the self. And in the seeming karmani akarma yah pasyet, akarmani cha karmayaha. And in the seeming non-action of the body, the person sees the action of the body. Let me explain to you by an example. I have someone else told me an example. I think it's quite useful. This jnani, this is a jnani's drishti. The jnani is sitting. No, let's take it this way. The jnani is working. The jnani is doing gardening, is doing cleaning, is washing the vessels and all this. So the jnani, karmani, in action. The jnani is thinking, akarma yah pasyet. In my Atma Swarupa, I don't do anything. Actions are being done by the body, sense, mind complex. Karmani, in the actions of the body, sense, mind complex. Akarma, the non-action of the self, the person sees. And when there is akarma, this is a bit tricky. When there is akarma of the body, sense, mind complex, now the jnani, having done the dishes, is sitting in front of the TV. To all in purposes, he's not doing any action. The jnani says, action is happening. So when action is happening in the body, the jnani says, action is not happening in the Atma. When non-action is happening in the body, the jnani says, action is happening in the body. Because even when the body is not moving, blood is flowing, heart is beating, neurological activities are happening. So in akarma, the jnani sees karma. There is so much activity happening in the body. And in akarma, in the non-activity of the body, you're sitting. The jnani says there is karma. Heart is beating, blood is flowing, many things are happening. And in karma, you're busy doing something. Then the jnani says, really speaking, from my Atma standpoint, there is a karma. So it's in karmani akarma yah pasyet. In action, the person sees the non-action of the self. And when the body is non-active, the person sees that the body is active. That the action belongs to there is action. That there is, because the body is active. You see, there's a kind of paradox there. What the message of the passage is that the jnanam and karma are not opposed to each other. The jnani can be fully involved in karma. It was good. There's a lot of learning process, and he gave enough rope for you to make mistakes, and he was quite compassionate also. He wasn't sort of very disciplinarian person. Is that sort of answer the question, kind of? This is sort of a development from inside, really. Yeah. Okay. I think it will be nice. Thank you.
Well, brothers and sisters, we have had a very interesting exposition and an even more interesting question and answer session. Now I can assure you, you can look forward to an equally interesting session with the next speaker. So why don't you go down, have a cup of tea, and come back in good time. Thank you.